Welcome back. We're still in the same clothes.
Yeah. We have drinks now, though.
Yeah, fancy. Alright, now my mouth is nice and moist.
Using the word moist. Anyway, we're going to talk about what kind of we're very comfortable with, which is baseball.
Yes.
And what's not comfortable about, which is teams that should be in the playoff hunt that are inexplicably, that's how you say it, inexplicably not really in it at the moment.
They suck.
Yeah, in a short term.
Yeah. I guess let's start with the Yankees.
Yeah,
Stanton had a good Yankee start for that first game.
And that's about it.
And that was about it. Aaron Judge quietly has
a
.350 average.
Yeah, and he also is this hitting streak still going, or did that break?
I don't know.
Because
I know finally played a game yet.
I don't know, but he did have an 11-game hitting streak.
Yes. I think he's up to 13, 14 now, something like that.
Yeah, and then Didi Gregorius has pretty much is shedding the underrated part of his name. But the biggest problem I'd say with the Yankees is probably that bullpen.
Yeah, but again, last year they were supposed to be lights out, best in the business, but
and then
for whatever reason,
the first 16 innings, I believe, they gave up 18 runs.
Yeah,
which is abysmal.
Yeah, I don't.
You had Kalen go down with injury, and then Cesar, who I believe was called up, immediately went down with injury too.
Yeah, last year I blamed a lot of that, even the last couple of years, on Joe Girardi just mishandling it, when to pull a starting pitcher, when to pull a reliever, when to put one in.
Right.
But this time it's not really that. It's just they're getting hit.
Yeah, it's the problem with relievers in which that they can be extremely volatile. That's why you don't see a 7-8 year contract for a closer, because maybe in 3 years suddenly
they get the yips or something.
Yeah, or he goes down with injury. It's not the same afterwards. At the same time, we've also seen Tanaka's early season woes from last year have sort of cropped up as of late.
Yeah.
Montgomery's not been as stellar as he has been, and the fact that several key Yankees are injured also doesn't help either.
Drury with that migraine problem. Yeah. I don't know how you don't say something with blurry vision right away.
He's been playing with it for years, apparently.
Yeah, that's kind of isn't that what the whole point of being a professional player? You get free doctor stuff.
Yeah, but kudos for Boone and Cashman for identifying. Wait a minute, I think this is something very serious, and pulling him out immediately.
Yeah.
And as for Stanton, he's been a career National League hitter. Mm-hmm. It's going to take some adjustment period to get used to these pitchers that, for the most part, he hasn't seen before. I mean, he hasn't really seen David Price, Chris Sale, Alex Cobb, all those guys. He hasn't seen them, so of course he's going to struggle. Now, obviously, the 2 5-strikeout games are very unusual, but wait, if this still is a problem in late May, I will say this is a big problem. But as the weather heats up, so too I believe he will.
And Mark Teixeira, one of our favorites,
always
terrible. Yeah. Gary Sanchez, though, his average after getting a whole bunch of hits lately is still under the Mendoza line,
but it's much improved.
But it's much improved. But
he's cold. He was ice cold for the first week and a half, and then he's collected a couple 2-hit, 3-hit, 2-homer games.
Yeah,
that type. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Now you want to talk about someone who I'm not sure how is fine. Kenley Jansen of the Dodgers.
Yeah, I remember reading before baseball season started, they're let's rank all the top players. Let's rank the players in the positions, or the top overall player, the pitchers. And the two that were always fought for who was either better or worse was Kenley Jansen and Craig Kimbrell. And I was a big Jansen fan, but oh my.
Yeah, 2 losses, an ERA north of 6. I've seen personally, and one of the games I actually covered was one of his 3 blown saves. I think he might even have more than that. And his demeanor, he just doesn't seem to care, honestly. I've seen the way he carries himself. It's kind of emotionless. I mean, he wasn't really that much of an emotional player, I think. I could be wrong on the mound, but still. I'm not sure.
He's not shooting arrows like Fernando Rodney.
Exactly. So. And considering that the Dodgers are at 500. I'm not saying this is something to worry about, but you might see the Dodgers maybe take him off the closing job for a little bit.
Yeah, just to get him back in shape. I mean, it worked a little bit with Chapman towards the end of last year.
A little bit. It rejuvenated
yeah.
him.
So sometimes you just need a mental
especially,
break, a restart.
Yeah, especially someone like Jansen who's been dominant and been the closer, high leverage for several years.
Yeah.
He's not Mariano Rivera,
No.
even as good as he is. So he's bound to come to earth eventually. So too with the Dodgers. I mean, how many more years do they have until Kershaw finally starts to break down?
Yeah. He's been breaking down a little bit. I mean, he's still strong,
He's dominant.
but he's
just not healthy.
Yeah, he's just not playing the full seasons.
Yeah.
I don't think he's logged 200 innings
in a couple of years.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Now you said you wanted to talk about the Cubs.
Yeah, they're not. Last year they didn't start off too well. They were sort of behind Milwaukee for the most part, but then they had a ridiculously really good post All-Star break.
And it seems like it's happening again.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about that because, like I said, the Yankees have been struggling, the Nationals have been struggling,
the Dodgers.
The Cubs, Dodgers.
They'll all be in where they need to be, barring catastrophic injury.
I always say it's a whole long season to go. It's a big grind for 162 games. That's why we see a lot of like big, tall, lanky pitchers break down towards the end of the year. It's just the wear and tear.
Exactly.
But every game does count. If you remember a few years back when the Yankees first just missed the playoffs, basically I think they missed it by 3 games, and that was a 4-game sweep by the Mets that they had. That they should have won that, and they should have won some games against Chicago as well.
Exactly. You're supposed.
So you need to win as many games as you can.
Maybe not so much like the Red Sox and their ridiculous 15-2 as of recording.
Yeah.
But you should be like the Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, the maybe not the Oakland Athletics. They're on the up and up, but you should still at least take 2 out of 3 from them.
Yeah.
You should beat the teams that you should beat.
Yeah.
You can't lose 3 or 4 to the Orioles like the Yankees did.
And you can't do also what the Yankees did: win 12-1 and then lose 9-1 the next game.
Exactly.
You have to stay consistent.
Yeah.
You're not into too much football, but my dad likes the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they always play to their opponents. If they're playing a really good team, you're going to see probably the best football game you'll ever see. But if they're playing a really crappy team, they're going to lose. They play terrible, sloppy. Their defense can't cover anyone. Their receivers drop balls. They fumble, interception.
Yeah. Well,
these elite baseball teams can't be playing like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
They have to be consistent.
The Yankees had a thing, new pitcher syndrome. Whenever it was a pitching debut or it was a pitcher they never faced before, 9 times out of 10, the guy usually beat the Yankees. That the bats went silent, that they couldn't find. Next time he faces them, then he gets shelled.
Yeah.
It's like, why couldn't you do this before?
Maybe they weren't recording stuff like the Red Sox assume.
No. But still, the Cubs' problem, it's not just been their fault that the Brewers have won a lot of games and come from behind or walk-off fashion. The Pirates have been quietly cruising into first and second place.
But you also have to be sure that these teams are going to be staying there, because when the Cubs won the World Series back in 2015, the Giants had the best record come All-Star break, but
then they collapsed.
And they are what they are now, piece of crap.
They're a good piece of crap, but they're a piece of crap.
Yeah, but so you can't judge anything too early.
No. It's always who has the hot hand, and is it hot when your opponent that you really want to beat is ice cold?
And one of my favorite players, Anthony Rizzo's, even just said now he wants games to drop down in number of volume of games they play, which, yes, that'd be good for all these pitchers. They might not be throwing 200 innings anymore. Save some arms, save some rest. But that revenue that would be lost,
it will never happen. It'll never happen. And I've seen some of maybe what Rob Manfred wants to do. I don't think any of it will get past the Player Association. But you know what I would think would help, and it also wouldn't get passed, but it would help? Schedule a week so that each and every team plays a doubleheader, but also has a rest day. Minimum of 1 rest day each week. So you'd still be playing 7 games a week. but you would always have a day off. Regardless, some teams might even have 2 days off depending on travel.
Yep.
You'd have to play a scheduled doubleheader, which is why I see it not happening. The teams wouldn't want to do it. The players probably wouldn't want to do it.
I don't know if you'd want to do a doubleheader every week, but maybe maybe every other Sunday or something. You could do something like that.
Well,
And-
I'd see it more as a weekday because those are the games they usually lose patrons. The weekends you'll have no problems filling the seats.
Well, yeah, but one of the things that I do want to talk about with the double header games though is it shouldn't just be, oh, I bought my one ticket, all right, now you got to leave, and then you go. I think it should be either
The true single admission.
Yeah,
doubleheader.
single admission. You could just stay in, and then there's like an hour or so in between the games, or you can get, if they want to keep the prices up, you can get like a discounted price for getting both of them.
Or you know what you could do? You could designate certain sections as being single admission and certain sections as admission for one game only, and then only those sections you'd have to say, okay, you have to clear, and that's a train. That's a very loud train.
Yeah. Well, you like trains. What kind of train does it go?
Probably Susquehanna. Probably one of the locals up to Sparta.
I think it's the cargo train.
Yeah. Well, no, the big one goes up in the late afternoon. So this would be very late for that.
What do I know?
Anyway, back to topic.
Anyway, now I know there's a whole bunch of different rules for like how many players you can bring up and send down and how many times.
Right.
It's all complicated stuff. And then if you bring them up certain times, then they're now a rookie or they get arbitration and all the. What I think should happen is you can get your 40-man roster and you can send guys to the minors, but I feel like you should be able to call them up when needed. But like in hockey, you have however many guys there are, but you only dress a certain amount of guys. I feel like you should be able to do that with baseball.
Yeah, although you know what would immediately happen, that they would deactivate the previous game's starting pitcher and the starting pitcher for the game.
Well, I feel like
it would basically be they shut off the starting pitchers and bring up more relievers.
Well, no, I feel like it should be like when you're playing like a fantasy baseball league where you're like, all right, I've got my starting pitchers here, I've got my reliever. Like, you need to have it set in stone saying, okay, we're going with a 5-man rotation. This is what it is.
Right.
That can't be like this has to be filled. And then those players
like
are
a minimum
in.
positions that you need.
So you need to fill that in sort of like a little bit of a brackety.
Yeah,
sort
so
of
like
thing.
say you need X amount of starters, X amount of relievers, X amount of infielders, outfielders, 2 catchers.
Yeah.
And
But
then you'd have
the rest of that though you can bring up and down.
then you'd have a taxi squad.
But then you'd dress only 25 guys for that game.
Yeah, I've seen a proposal like that. Move it up to 28 players, but you can only have 25 active.
Yeah. But the other guys
game.
can stay in the minors and play their games, get the reps out where they're not sitting on the bench doing nothing.
The proposal I saw is that they'd be on the major league roster, but you basically deactivate and reactivate them.
Yeah.
That's why I said starting pitchers, because you'd always deactivate the starting pitcher from the previous game and the one for the next game.
Yeah, no, I think obviously there's got to be a whole bunch of convoluted stuff and whatnot. That's
And
happen,
ultimately, you need to get it past the players. Well, kind of. Rob Manfred doesn't right now, but relations are kind of at their worst point since the '94 strike. I'd have to say, between the commissioner and the owners and the player and the players union.
Really?
So yes,
Worse than football?
not worse than football, but the good times have passed. That there's some labor strife, especially back when the new catching rules and the mound visits came out. There was a lot of vocal opinion. Now, I was someone of the opinion that was bad, but seeing it in action and seeing how games have gotten much shorter, like upwards of 10 minutes already, I'm for it because it's nice. Although it kind of makes it interesting that one thing that I didn't notice that I knew injuries automatically didn't count as mound visits. But if a pinch hitter is announced, the catcher or the coach can automatically has a free
Oh, really?
mound visit because they're changing players that they can they can go to the mound and chat with the pitcher. That I did not know that. So
Yeah, no, that's new for me.
yeah, so there are general provisions. That and also for each extra inning they get one additional mound visit. So it's not like they have 6 mound visits and it's the 20th inning and you have no more mound visits and you really need one.
Yeah.
And it's also up to the umpire's discretion whether to fine or eject someone or something. So it's better, but relations, I know Manfred wants to do more changes to the games. That he said if they can get the time under a certain amount, he won't do it next year. But who's to say that he won't change his mind?
I was surprised with the Yankees Red Sox. One of their games I think was like delayed slightly, and it was still under 3 hours.
That tells you.
Like that Yankee Red Sox game,
Yeah.
it's like almost written in stone. It's an unwritten rule that like it has to be like a 3.5 hour game.
Right, and that tells you that
But
that the pace of play initiative, this one is actually working. That if the longest games, the 2 teams that have the longest games in baseball, period, are having manageable games, that tells you that it's working. But you know what also is going long is this episode.
Yes.
So we should probably cut this off right now, and we'll see you next time.